Yay!
Give it a couple seconds. Introduction time. Okay.
Is
Hello
that our
and
official theme
welcome.
song?
Wait, we're live now.
That's the best way to start.
Hello and welcome to the Raptor Circus podcast. Raptor Circus is a group of Utah video game developers focused on feedback and analysis. I am your host, Vince Betteridge. This is Shirley Jackson. We have, down in the bottom corners, we have Jeff Peters, Jory Dixon, and Josh Sutphin. And tonight we will be discussing a game called Smash and Dash for iTunes devices and Google Play devices. So Android, iPhone, iPod, iPad. And I'd like to start off the discussion with what the game is. The game is a simulation of an arcade game, in a sense. And it has a virtual control scheme where you tap your finger on the bottom portion of the screen, and you can then control what is happening on the top portion of the screen. And it's one-to-one, basically, even though your gamepad portion is sized down for you to have more screen for looking at and less screen for touching. Yeah, good job getting that on there. And the object of yes, the object of the game is to collide into other players or other AI, I guess. And just to survive, and they shoot bullets, and the bullets murder you mercilessly. This is a free game with in-app purchases through the use of a virtual currency and removing ads that can be supported. And I think that's a pretty good introduction of the game. And I'd like to start off with things that we liked first, because I feel like it'll be a lot more fun to talk about things we hate. So I'm going to leave that for last. And we're going to have to be positive for 10 minutes. So starting now, we're going to be positive about this game for 10 minutes.
This is a tall order. Not for this game, but for us.
Yes, I know. This is a growing experience for us as well. So let me pull up my notes here.
Pull up the game on your phone, too.
It's fine. I don't want to do that.
Oh, okay.
So for my positive stuff, this is a unique control scheme for me. I've never seen this before, that allows you to have intense actions without your fingers getting in the way. So we're playing an action-based game. It's not like Bejeweled or Candy Crush Saga where you just take turns doing things. This is a game that is actively engaging you at all times with touch controls and does not obscure your vision in any way. Does anybody have anything to say on the control scheme and what they liked about it? Did anyone else even like it?
I think one of the best things about it is the attempt to make a classic arcade a Twitch game on a touchscreen, which lots of people are failing with. And the concept of dividing the screen in half between the area you interact with and what you see you're doing to it with a one-to-one input ratio is great. It actually gives you that Twitch feeling that so many other games that try to use digital D-pads and digital joysticks all fail with and get you frustrated with. And it feels like something that could have been in a cabinet, 25 years ago with coins on it. So much so I miss the continue option. I want to see drop a coin and continue your game. But I think it's nice to have a great Twitch game on a touchscreen. We need more of this stuff, considering more and more people are moving and playing most of their gaming on these things.
Well, I did notice that there is a sound effect that does sound like you're popping in a coin when you hit the Play New Game button, which I actually did like that. That set the tone for what the game is going to be for me quite well, actually.
One of the other things that's it's very subtle, but also I would describe this as brilliant, is the concept of simply lifting your finger from the control space automatically pauses the game. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to pause for you don't have to pause for a pause button. Pause to find it. I can't even say it. And anytime you get distracted, the game instantly pauses. It's just an elegant solution based on the control scheme. I think it's brilliant. I think it's one of the best parts about it.
Yeah, I agree. That was a very well thought out idea to pause the game so you didn't like accidentally get destroyed by an enemy while your finger was off the screen for a second or something.
It's the instant anti-panic button. Or if you panic, you don't have to hit the button, because when your hand leaves the screen, it stops.
Right. It's like a little kill switch on an ATV or something. The instant your hand comes off of the handle, stops the throttle so you don't die.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you
Go ahead, Shirley.
fly off from the momentum if you're riding an ATV like that? And
That metaphor actually does. I think that metaphor carries through to this game, though, the flying off, because if you pause, for one thing, you can't see the screen anymore, and if there's any sort of situation going on behind that pause veil, you are dead.
Better remember what it was.
Yeah, you better have photographic memory of what happened before the game paused. Unless you're in like a really safe spot, which can happen, but not very often.
Maybe the first 30 seconds, but after that, you're pretty nonstop hectic.
And in between waves. In between waves, it's probably safe to pause.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, average game length for this is about a minute to 3 minutes, but you're committed for those 3 minutes. You're like full hands like this in the game.
100% attention.
Like this isn't a casual one of these where you're like, lol, I'm winning the world and doing my taxes over here. You're 100% focused on this game at all times. It is action intense. Shirley, why don't you bring up one of your notes that you like to talk about so we can get you in here.
I kind of like they had a nice use of the electro neon colors on the title screen. Most of the times when people use bright colors like that, they overdo it, and it's like, ah, my eyes! But they did a good job of like toning it down, but also kind of keeping the nice brightness.
Did you say you liked the logo that they used, the actual word smash and dash?
Yeah, I like the design of that. And I like the subtle movement when you're on the main menu, like before you push play. It kind of has like a weird little. Is it before you push play? Anyway,
yeah, it exists nowhere else.
Yeah, and like you move your phone and it kind of moves kind of with it, and that's kind of a nice little touch to it. But
Nice little piece of polish.
Yeah.
What about you, Jory? I don't recall hearing from you yet on this part of the topic.
Liked the panel with the control itself, the control panel. I thought that was fun. Seeing something else move in tandem with your finger, instead of it being right on it, is definitely very interesting. Little disorienting at first, trying to figure out, okay, whoa, oh, it's exactly. And then you have to dodge the bullets. I mean, obviously it's a skill thing because it's not that easy to begin with. It's you got to learn how to dodge all the things or attack things, you know. So that was interesting.
Yes, this game has a brutal difficulty curve that will destroy you if you are not careful in an instant. I've died with a score of 0 multiple times.
Something so easy, or something that looks so easy, it does have a difficulty curve, which I guess can bring you back in playing the game again.
See, the
That's really easy to do. It's like you die and you're back in.
Whoa, two people.
What was that? Josh, you go first, and then we'll get to you, Jeff.
I was just jumping off Jory's comment and saying it's one of those games that when you die, it's so easy to get back in. Like, there's not a lengthy load time. You don't have to repeat a bunch of content you've already done before. It's just, you're dead, restart, boom. You're right back in. And so, you know, your session might last 20 seconds, but you do 10 of them in a row without even thinking about it.
Yes.
Kind of like pinball. Play pinball.
What was that, Jeff?
So this is a game that would appeal to anyone that got addicted to Flappy Bird or Demon's Souls. For those that like punishing difficulty and are relentlessly unforgiving. The fact that you can get back into the game so quick is really cool, but it's definitely relentless and unforgiving. But I say that in the most positive, loving way.
Yeah, you're looking for like revenge on dying quickly. Like you're angry at the game and you want to make the game suffer for it killing you so quickly by popping it in again and hearing that credit noise to get in the action again right away.
I think I got to level 2 once during the whole time I played
Wow.
it.
I started getting consistently to Sector 3, but I played it quite a bit because I was like wanting to really prepare for this and give this game as much of a shot as I could. So I was able to get to Sector 3.
2 minutes left.
What sector did you get to?
3.
You got to Sector 3 a couple times. Now we'll get into why. We'll get into why we were able to get to Sector 3 in the negative section. But what about you, Josh? How far did you get?
3, I've been able to get consistently to 3. But 3 feels like a little bit of a difficulty wall to me. Like, in Sector 1, it's kind of like, okay, there's a few enemies, and you're getting used to this. I mean, it's basically kind of Fruit Ninja with bullets, right? You're sort of drawing a path through these enemies. In Sector 1, it's like there's just a few enemies. You sort of draw a nice, simple shape, and it's sort of low pressure. You get into Sector 2, and they start sort of introducing enemies that shoot bullets. In particular, the enemies that shoot bullets in several directions at once, rather than just in one direction. But there's not really enough of them for it to be super high pressure yet, unless you're sort of not paying attention or you get backed into a corner or something. But then I feel like as soon as you get into Sector 3, it's like, and bullet hell on. Which is a little bit of an overstatement, but I feel like we step up a little difficulty cliff there. And all of a sudden the game is, Sectors 1 and 2, it's about dashing into enemies to kill them, and Sector 3 almost felt to me more like it was about dodging all their bullets and staying alive. And then dashing into them was sort of incidental and opportunistic, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it was a really notable step. And so I kind of hit the wall there, difficulty-wise.
I'm going to give the last 30 seconds of this section to Jeff. Go.
I actually think the difficulty wall is good because if you go back and look at the upgrades that are provided, there's enough upgrades for your repeat play that actually help you get through it and manage it. From either shots that you can shoot at the guys or nukes that blow up the whole screen or a shield. It's actually a good upgrade section that doesn't feel forced, and to me it feels quite natural. Even getting into levels 4 and 5 where the difficulty even ramps up even more, which gets even more intense. So if you like VFX and way too much stuff on the screen or a fan of old vertical shooters, then I think it's a great experience.
All right, I'm going to cut you off there, and now we get to the fun part. We get to talk about the things we hated. Now, Jeff has a little bit of friendship with the developer, so he might have a little trouble with this. But I do not have any trouble with this. I'm happy to start off the things that we hated and things that were broken with this game, because this game in itself felt like it was out to get me. It felt like it was trying to emotionally manipulate me the whole time, and it emotionally manipulated me to anger. Okay, first thing I want to start off with is high scores. High scores are irrelevant in this game unless you've already played it for 40 hours, because or money. I should say or money. Because the score, there's like a score doubler thing that you have to unlock to play with. And it has multiple upgrades, so you need that maxed out to have a competitive score. You need to have basically all of everything in the score unlocked to have a competitive high score. I want to get into a little twitchy thing now. The control, while being awesome and cool, I often overcompensated for what I was doing because I was trying to dodge bullets. And to dodge bullets, you need to move quickly across the screen. And if you move quickly across that little touch area, you're going to fly into the wall. It's just going to happen. And if you're trying to go slow and weave through the bullets, that is a completely different game that I was not willing to play and did not play with this game. But yeah, I'll let someone else chime in on things they didn't like about it.
So I don't hate any part of this game, but there's a few things that I thought could be a little better. The pay to buy things I see in a lot of free games, which is understandable. But I would almost prefer why not pay 50 cents or $1 for this game and just But I guess that you can potentially earn more money because there's not really a limit to what you can buy. But that being that way, you can't progressively buy upgrades in a steady manner. As your skill level progresses, you can't also increase the upgrades. I'd be ready to go to level, to the next level, but I wouldn't be able to go there because the upgrades that would make it easier for me would cost 500 gems versus, and you get what, like maybe 10 gems before you die if you're lucky. So that was a little disappointing to me.
Yeah, I wish feel like the game was designed to like manipulate you into buying those upgrades to play it, and I would have preferred to play a game where it's possible to beat it without upgrades. But I feel like so many people are writing the the in-app purchase train, and they're purposefully designing things to like get you to buy stuff so you can go on further, and it's like, no, that's not what a video game is supposed to do.
Well, to be fair, there are games that I have played and enjoyed that do that.
Yeah, but this one feels different, where the games you played, it's possible to beat it without needing to buy those in-app purchases, whereas this one, it feels like you have to if you want to get past like level 1.
So yeah, I like upgrades in the game. It's just they just cost too much. That's my thing about it.
I would say that Sector 2 is possible to beat without any upgrades, but you'd have to have a god run to get past Sector 2 without any upgrades, in my opinion. Because basically what you'd have to do to beat Sector 2 without any upgrades would have to just know the perfect arc and perfectly fly into anything before they ever fired any bullets. Because as soon as bullets get on the screen and they stay on the screen because they're so slow moving, which I would maybe speed them up if I was making the game. I'd probably speed up the bullet speed. The anxiety of trying to dodge the bullets, either you don't have it and you immediately crash into it, or you start playing, the game switches into a different type of game where you are now trying to mechanically dodge through bullets with a little touchpad.
So I think I might actually be coming at that from a little bit different perspective than some of you guys, because the only upgrade that I bought, and I bought it with gems, I didn't buy anything with real money, but the only upgrade that I bought was the first level of the gem magnet, because I found it like really tedious to collect all the gems since there's like no collection radius. It feels like you have to hit them straight on. The magnet, and granted it was only level 1, so maybe it becomes more aggressive at higher levels rather than just a bigger radius. I don't know how it levels up. But at level 1, I was expecting it to be a snappier gather, and it was actually a really slow gather. Like, I got a radius, but I had to like park in an area for several seconds. That was mildly annoying. But that's beside the point. The point is that the only upgrade that I bought was the first level gem magnet, which doesn't really affect your survivability or your ability to defeat enemies, right? It's solely associated with collecting the gems. And I didn't really have very much trouble with level 2. Like, I was able to get to level 3 pretty consistently despite not having any upgrades. But I think I took to this type of control scheme maybe a little bit more naturally or a little bit more intuitively than it sounds like some of you guys did, because I didn't have the problem of like overshooting or sort of misreading the scale difference between the input area and the play area. And I'm not really sure what to put that down to. Off the top of my head, I would say because I've played mouse-based first-person shooters for most of my waking life, and it feels like a similar kind of abstraction to me, you know? Like, the mouse doesn't map in a direct and obvious way to rotating your camera view in an FPS, right? You're mapping from a 2D to a 3D space. There's this whole layer of abstraction there. And while it is a one-to-one kind of input in this game between the input box and the gameplay space, there's still the abstraction of scale there. And so, I don't know, like working across that abstraction with this sort of analog real-time input scheme is pretty natural to me. What I did find was annoying with that input scheme, though, and this is probably my biggest complaint in the game, and it actually pops up in a different form in the menus as well, is I feel like the actual underlying, like, super low-level implementation of it isn't quite 100% there. Like, it's pretty intuitive to pick up and start playing, but touchscreen inputs are inherently kind of noisy, and I found that it was difficult to just hold still. Like my guy, it seems like there's some filtering because he doesn't exactly jitter, but like he would kind of move around a little bit in a little teeny space where I thought I was holding my thumb still. And I think it's because it's basically impossible to hold my thumb completely still on a touchscreen. It's moving a pixel up and a pixel left and a pixel right and this kind of stuff. I mean, even with stuff, my own stuff I programmed and just graph out the input, you can see that happen. I feel like if I had been working on it, I would have wanted to do a little bit stronger filtering of some sort there. I also noticed a similar kind of issue in the menus. When you go in the store and you're swiping up and down to move the page up and down, that's not one-to-one with your finger, which really stood out to me because it's so unusual for a touch device to have a vertical scroll list that doesn't match your touch. And so that just kind of stood out as like everything else feels pretty polished, and then there's that. But and because I'm a pretty sort of kinesthetics-oriented designer just by nature, those things really stand out to me a ton. And seen.
Yeah. So a couple things that are completely off of what we've been discussing so far. As far as visual style goes, I didn't have a problem with the arcade like neons and the grid being like this neon color. What I did have a problem with is trying to mix it with pixel art sprites, especially rotating pixel art sprites looked very ugly and weird and lazy to me. Just especially like the player character is like, you know, like a 10 by 10 pixel guy, but he is scaled up on a device that has, you know, like whatever 200 pixels per inch, and he's sitting there at a quarter of an inch with a 10 by 10 pixel space, and I don't know, it was a very clashing art style with the background, and that was the reason I had a problem with it. If it would have been all pixel stuff, I would have been less of an issue. If it would have been high resolution pixel stuff, I don't know, maybe that would have fixed it, who knows. If we would, but another thing I wanted to get to with one of the art style choices is we unlocked the invincibility upgrade, which should have a seizure warning on it, because it changes colors. It like, you know, the background grid in the game, like that just cycles through the rainbow at like, it cycles through it probably like 10 times in 1 second.
It's like a rave.
And it's just like, it's faster than a rave. It's just like all of the colors are coming at you at once, and it's like going from dark to light, and you're like, I don't want to look at this anymore. I'm invincible, but I don't want to look at it.
Or at the 10-minute mark.
All right, so I've set aside 10 more minutes to basically set aside how we feel about it and what we think the game is as a whole, and what we should tell people about this game. Like, what should we tell our audience about this game? Jeff, would you? Wow, that. Hey. Jeff, would you like to start us off?
I think looking at a trend of more and more gamers, whether they want to admit it today or not, are playing more and more games on their phones and their tablets and less on the consoles. In looking for more gamer-oriented product, more Twitch games, more action games, more things that us as gamers like, okay, we want on this other thing. I think this fits that sort of need really well, and it also does a good job of solving for what do you do in place of a digital joystick and button on these devices, which frankly sucks in my opinion. There should never be a digital D-pad or a digital button on the screen with no tactile feedback. So actually, although there's no tactile feedback in this control scheme, at least there's a nice one-to-one movement. I move my finger and I see exactly the same thing happen. It feels better. And the tactile nature is you get the feeling of your finger on the screen, and as you're feeling it movement, you're seeing a reaction on the screen above it. So yeah, I think the controls are a very elegant choice. I also think it's a great throwback to an early 80s arcade game, both from the visual style and the type of game. So if you're into those types of things, I think it's a must play. It's a little gem that's kind of hidden out there at the moment, but I'd like to see more and more of these types of things find their way out there. I do think that there's an interesting dynamic in the gameplay where you're either picking off the enemies the moment they appear, which almost feels too easy when you get that rhythm down, or the game is so overwhelmed with red bullets that it goes off the opposite spectrum, and you rarely find a balance between one of those two, balances in the game. Not a deal breaker, it's just an interesting observation of the two different ways you end up seeing the game when you play it. All right, next.
Okay, Jory, let's have you give your full analysis of the game in 2 minutes and what you think about it.
I think it was a pretty well overall designed game. There's nothing really wrong with it. There's just a few things that obviously we would like to be better. I don't think it holds your attention for very long. I wish it was more involved and added a few more upgrades, like a ship upgrade or something that made me feel more interested in playing it longer. But it is a well-designed game, and I think it is worth a good play for a minute or two of your time if you need to play a game somewhere.
Okay.
One thing I'd add really quick on your concept of upgrades, I think one of the things that would help it, and specifically what you just described, is if the flow of playing through a game actually dropped you into the upgrades so that you could see what was there. Because as it stands right now, the game waits for you to either discover upgrades, hit the menu button, or want to explore, which means that you could also be missing stuff.
Yeah.
Shirley, why don't you go ahead and tell people what you thought of the game as a whole? Like, did you have fun playing it?
I did have fun playing it until I noticed my finger would kind of get that weird rubber feel after swiping it so many times. But sorry. But I think it was an alright game. It's not a game for me personally. I'm more of a story person where the story means more to me. But I think for a lot of people that I know that play games on their phones, they probably really like it and get hooked on it just because it's, you die so fast and it's like, oh man, I want to play another game to try and, get farther and farther, and you just keep going. But yeah.
Josh, how about you?
Well, I'd recommend it. It's immediately satisfying. It's immediately accessible. The very first swipe is satisfying. Like the moment that you realize, the moment you see what the game is about, oh, crash into the sky, and I do it this way. It's a combination of the particle effects and the sounds and the one-to-one control, the really fluid frame rate. All of those things kind of come together. It's just, particularly when you hit a good rhythm, it just feels really satisfying just to dash all over the screen and kill the crap out of all that stuff. I didn't really mind the upgrades as a concept. I mean, I have my own personal bias against free-to-play businessy stuff, which we won't get into here. But the concept of having upgrades as a thing from a game design perspective, I actually felt like added some depth to the game that if they hadn't been there, I would have felt like it was a throwaway. Like it was really fun for 2 minutes, and I've now had that experience, I'm never going to play it again. Whereas with the upgrades, I do feel like while it is admittedly a very transparent gem grind, there are some interesting upgrades in there. Like I said a minute ago, when you hit that flow, when you really get into a good rhythm, it's incredibly satisfying. When you're just killing tons of guys and dodging all the bullets and basically sort of being like having a really good run. The upgrades to a large extent facilitate that happening more, so that's desirable. I felt like they were a touch on the high price side, which sort of elongated the gem grind a little more than I maybe would have liked. Again, from a pure game design perspective, I'm sure that the prices are set more from a monetization perspective than from strictly a game playtime management perspective. I was happy to see them at least experiment, and I think it was mostly a successful experiment with a constant touch, action-based control scheme that avoids the finger occlusion issue, right? I did mention the filtering issue earlier. It's not enough to ruin the game by any means. It's one of those little nitpicky things that I noticed because I'm a game designer and this is the kind of game that I make. So broadly speaking, I think it worked really well. So I think, it's accessible, it's immediately satisfying, it's free, right? I would give it thumbs up.
All right. I definitely think it is worth playing. I think it has an interesting design that I've never seen before, which is a big plus for me. I love something I've never done before, and that control scheme was completely new to me. I had never experienced it before. I feel like it is for people who enjoy high difficulty. I feel like it's for people who enjoy maybe a little bit of masochism. Um, it's for people who want to just beat it and get a little better. And it really fuels that high score mindset, which is why I was so angry about it during the negative section. Is because I feel like that's what this game is there for, is to make you feel awesome about improving your high score, and maybe even sharing it with others. I tried to connect it to my Google account, and I couldn't figure out how to reach the leaderboards, but that might just be a Google problem. I don't know. But anyway, that was the main focus for me. Is I wanted to see how far I could push my high score, and I felt the upgrades were messing with the high score issue, and that's a problem with a lot of free games. Like if you think Jetpack Joyride, some of those upgrades are really necessary to be competitive, but you can just go straight for those and know what they are. It's hard to know. Basically, all the upgrades in this will help you reach a higher score. There's none of them that do not help you reach a higher score. They all have some sort of improvement for you that you need to get better at accessing later areas. As soon as you unlock one of the new things, it becomes so much easier to do to beat a sector. One of the bummers about it is I wasn't able to turn off the upgrades to go back to playing it the original way. Once they're on for good. And I felt like I was being a jerk by robbing myself of the pure experience, kind of what Josh did. He never bought anything that improved his ability to play the game. I kind of wanted to have that still. It kind of just went away as soon as I bought something just to see what it did. I was then locked into being Mr. Upgrade, and then it was well, I'm kind of in this middle stage where I have one upgrade where I'm not playing the game at its pure base level, and I'm not playing it as an advanced level. And that frustrated me a lot. But on the whole, it was fun to play, and I'd recommend people play it.
Ooh, on time.
Cool.
Excuse me, what was that?
I said Smash and Dash.
Yes, Smash and Dash is the game. It's available on iTunes. It's available on Google Play. You can pick it up, have a good time for free. It does have ads. It does have in-app purchases. Enjoy.
I did not find the ads obtrusive.
Well, there was one about get 3 minutes with hot ladies or something like that.
Well, I said obtrusive, not offensive. I don't know what
That's the ad he liked.
It was funny when Shirley pulled it up too. She's like, 3 minutes with hot women?
Oh, or the Spartan one where it's he's a giant Spartan guy and he's chained up on his knees, and it's chains on the knees of a giant Spartan isn't going to stop him. That's tying Godzilla's pinky toe. Not gonna do anything.
That's trying to make the 12-year-old in all of us feel cool.
That didn't make me feel cool.
Well, the 12-year-old boy in all of us.
And all of you.
Shirley murdered her. Okay, so I just want to give us a little time to give everybody a chance to promote the stuff they do and who they are, and tell people stuff that they should see if they want. I wanted to give us a little time for that. I'll go first to kind of show you what we do. I'm Vince Betteridge. I am Vince the Bee on Twitter. I also run the Raptor Circus Twitter, and I run raptorcircus.com. That's kind of the gaming stuff I do. I also have a normal life for now, but maybe that'll change. Who knows? Yeah, Shirley, you go ahead.
I'm an illustrator, and I just play games. I've made a couple Twine games, but yeah. Anyway.
She has a Twitter. She's Lion in the Trees.
Yeah.
Like the animal lion in the trees. And she has a website, Lion in the Trees. You can see all of her cool illustrations. She has them all up there.
Yeah.
That's good enough.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. What about you, Jeff?
I'm a simple 25-year industry vet. Evolved into a general-purpose Swiss Army knife, best way to describe it. Acting mainly as industry consultant in the moment, and got a lot of cool stuff in the works. Unfortunately, can't talk about everything at the moment, so a bit hamstrung on the flapping of the jaw at the moment.
Any website for us to visit? Like for your company or anything?
On Twitter, you can follow me at JeffDemism, or bizarre words of non-wisdom every once in a while. That's the closest to something to follow me at the moment.
Cool. Jory, how about you? Do you have a Twitter? Do you have a website?
I am a wannabe game artist one day, animator. I have a website. It's jory.dixon at it's like portfolio at yola.com or something. If you type in Jory Dixon in Google, you'll find me. And yeah, I have a game in the works. It's a board game. It's very basic. It's not worth talking about just yet, but there might be stuff up on there eventually.
You should talk to the Emma guy.
Later.
Okay.
What about you, Josh?
So I'm Josh Supfin. I run an indie game developer and game dev consultancy called Third Helix. Website's thirdhelix.com. There is a dash in the middle of it because someone else has the regular thirdhelix.com and they have nothing to do with what I do. So it's actually third-helix.com. I'm Invicticide on Twitter. I have been involved in some of the early organizational stuff for Raptor Circus. I am currently one of the founding members of Utah Games Guild, which is preparing the arcade, the Utah Games Guild arcade, for Salt Lake Comic Con this year in September. That's basically like an indie mega booth type of thing where we're going to be showcasing a bunch of indie games that'll be playable on the show floor. I am working on a new game, which is not announced yet, and I'm not going to announce it here, but it will be playable at Salt Lake Comic Con as well, so come check it out.
Cool.
Man, I wish I was going to San Diego Comic Con.
You're going to Salt Lake. Deal with it.
It's not the same.
Okay. That's it for the Raptor Circus podcast. I'm Vince. I was your host. I hope you enjoyed it. That was pretty fun. I think we may do it again. All right. I'm going to stop the broadcast, so all of you internet people have fun if you watch this somewhere.